Friends, parents, grandparents, family members, colleagues, esteemed guests, and my dear students, the class of 2017. What a year your senior year has been for our world. What a time to be alive and graduating high school. There are so many things about this moment in history for which we should be grateful. And yet, when you think about the events of this past year, of your past 4 years, even of this past week, it can sometimes feel like the ground underneath us is a little bit shaky. So many wonderful and inspiring things await you as you graduate today. And you will also face big questions, changes, and challenges. So as I look out at the world into which you're heading when you walk out those doors in a few minutes, I keep coming back to a Talmudic story that I want to share with you today. It's one of the sadder rabbinic stories, a tragic tale that highlights the fragility of a learning community, of human relationships, and of our society. Its lessons feel particularly poignant right now. So this is a story about two rabbis who lived almost 2,000 years ago, named Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, otherwise known as Reish Lakish. These two were a dynamic duo, teacher and student, as well as friend and chavrutas, study partners. They were also brothers-in-law. Rabbi Yochanan was a renowned rabbi. Reish Lakish started off as the opposite. He was a robber and a gladiator until he changed his ways and became a renowned scholar as well. One day, a group of students in the Beit Midrash asked a question about the impurity of knives, swords, and weapons. Rabbi Yochanan answers their question with his opinion, and then Reish Lakish challenges him with a different point of view. And at this point, the civil discourse goes downhill as their intellectual argument turns personal. Rabbi Yochanan responds to Reish Lakish's challenge with a personal insult. Well, a robber would know his trade. And then they start firing back and forth at one another. Eventually, Reish Lakish gets so distressed by this exchange that he grows faint and ill, and then he dies. Rabbi Yochanan is devastated. His insult killed his best friend. So it seems to me no coincidence that the particular legal matter being discussed in this story, a seemingly irrelevant detail, is about the impurity of weapons. From a narrative perspective, it connects to Reish Lakish's shady past, which opens the door for Rabbi Yochanan's nasty comment. But the metaphor is clear. Words can be daggers. Language is the sacred currency of debate, democracy, and creativity. And yet that very same language can be used to attack, cut down, and destroy. It's not clear why Rabbi Yochanan said what he said. In the heat of the moment, his emotions got the best of him. That could have been any of us. The work of leading and learning, pluralism and democracy, especially in a diverse and interconnected world, is messy. If you're going to get in the game, fight for what's right, engage with differences, and stand up for your convictions, you're going to get dirty. Conflict is necessary and not always comfortable. I hope you've learned here at GAN to embrace this. And one takeaway from this story is that there are not always safe spaces in the Beit Midrash or the real world. If you're going to wrestle with big ideas, voice strong opinions, and act with conviction, as you have here over these past 4 years, you better develop a thick skin. But this story is really about debate gone awry. A good, clean argument about ideas and values and how best to live them out is very different from the rhetoric and ad hominem attacks that are so prevalent in our political culture and our world today. Yeah, it might be easier, and for some people more satisfying, to attack a person himself rather than to engage with his ideas. Yet in our Jewish tradition, machloket l'shem shamayim, principled, respectful disagreement is a core value, while humiliation, disrespect, and degradation are compared to murder. Rabbi Yochanan learned this the hard way. We live at a time when at the push of a button or the stroke of a key, you can say cruel, vile things about another human being, and publicly. As New York Times columnist Frank Bruni described in a recent op-ed about the college campus, people are hurling labels at one another for the sake of shaming, rather than as strategies for change. Graduates, you don't have to like everyone. You might even hate the things they do or say. I hope you will continue to argue, challenge, stand up, and protest with that holy chutzpah. But you've already proven that you can be passionate and unwavering about your commitments while staying mindful of your speech and being kind. As we heard from Layla Goodman on senior night, kindness is one of the defining characteristics of this class. You know what it means to rally around a classmate who's going through a crisis. You know what it means to welcome a new classmate into this school and this community, someone coming from the outside who never thought she'd be comfortable here. You understand that activism starts with empathy, with kavod, respect and deep care for one another and the world, and you know that this comes with tremendous responsibility for how you carry yourselves and how you use your intellectual confidence and the power of your words. But the story of Rabbi Yochanan didn't stop there. In an effort to comfort him, the other rabbis send him a new chevruta, a new study partner. And this new chevruta finds evidence to support every argument that Rabbi Yochanan makes. This goes on for a little while until he cries out, "Do you think you're anything like Reish Lakish?" When I would state something, he would raise 24 objections. And then I would respond with 24 rebuttals, forming a debate that led us to deeper understanding. But all you keep saying is, there's evidence that supports you. As if I don't know that what I already said was right. Rabbi Yochanan bursts into tears and cries out, "Where is Reish Lakish? Where is Reish Lakish?" He wasn't only grieving the loss of his best friend. What he loved about this chevruta was precisely the vibrancy of their disagreements. Their arguments were uncomfortable, but they expanded their perspectives and deepened their understanding of Torah. Unlike so many of us in our world today, Rabbi Yochanan had no interest in staying in the echo chamber of his own truth claims. No, he passionately longed for the one who saw things differently and wasn't afraid to challenge him. Both our Jewish tradition and our American democracy demand that we engage with the people with whom we least want to engage. It's not easy to stay in this kind of relationship. I think we saw this from Rabbi Yochanan's tragic outburst. To stay in community with people who see things differently than we do, who challenged our preconceived notions about ourselves and our world, forces us to make ourselves vulnerable and to risk the possibility that we might be wrong and might even have to change. It's much easier to stay in the echo chamber. Think of our social media feeds, which play the role of Rabbi Yochanan's second Chavruta, reinforcing our biases and preconceptions. We curate the people and viewpoints to which we are exposed. This is not the way you build true community, and it's not the way to truth. Class of 2017, you already understand this well. Think of the big ideas you've explored and the deeply challenging questions with which you've wrestled. Think of Sivan's Ma'avar project, which questioned the very foundations of her own Jewish identity. Or Kobe and Ben, who set out for the South on a mission to meet people whose life experiences and worldviews challenge their own. Think of the people of color panel that we've already heard about today, surely a legacy of your class, during which Sophie, Yair, Adrian, and Chaim had the courage to speak their truths and to challenge all of us to look more carefully at our own. And think of your senior Shabbaton, when we stayed up until 1:30 in the morning, talking about politics and pedagogy, teenage culture, parenting, and high school discipline. You challenged and questioned my decisions and my worldviews, but you also listened openly, willing to question and challenge your own beliefs and assumptions. That was a night I will never forget. Thank you. Graduates, I challenge you today to find your Reish Lakish and to use your intellectual confidence, moral conviction, emotional sensitivity, and your deep sense of self to stick with the Chavruta. Stick with your community, stick with our country, stick with our people, even when you most want to retreat into your echo chamber or flee altogether. The Jewish community, our American society, and our world need you to keep having these conversations, especially about the most difficult issues and with the most difficult people. The question for you graduates is not whether you will care about Israel, your Jewish identities, racial and economic justice, the environment, human rights. I know you will. The question is whether you will seek out and stay in community with others who care less or care differently than you do. Based on the earnest optimism I spoke about last Wednesday, the passion and purpose, courage and kindness that you have shown over these past 4 years, I know you will. Our world is already a better place as a result of you being in it. We love you, and we'll miss you. Mazel tov.